The title of this video is Why I Left MAGA by Life Take Two. And I want to listen to what she has to say. She grew up Mormon, I understand. I watched just the slightest bit of this video, but we're basically all going into this together. So let's check this out.
It's raining in Arizona today, which is absolutely wild. I think this is maybe like the second or third day of rain that we've had in the past 3 months. So what that means is you might hear some thunder or lightning in the background and maybe like some pitter patter of little drops hitting my patio out here. And it also means that my hair is just trying to curl itself everywhere. But honestly, it's just these two little horns here by my ears. They're not used to the humidity. This week, against my better judgment, I've been talking about my escape from MAGA. And I've had a lot of questions about what made me leave. So today, in this totally unscripted video, I'm going to dive into the steps leading up to and then what it was that finally pushed me to decide that I was no longer Republican, no longer conservative, and break up with Donald J. Trump and the entire Make America Great Again train. And no, it wasn't Epstein. I broke up with this guy long before that. Let's talk about my life take two.
Ready on the set? Let's try this again.
Okay, production value, not top tier, but overall pretty interesting.
I'm Jennie Gage, and this is Life Take Two. First, I want to thank you for stopping on my channel here for a minute. And I really want to thank everyone who's been engaging in my comment section. This is an interesting topic, and I feel like in America right now, we're in such political upheaval, and a lot of people are questioning, and a lot of people are on journeys of their own. And it's been really beautiful to hear about some of those journeys in the comment section. So thank you so much for sharing. So how did I leave not just MAGA, not just being a Trump voter, but Christian nationalism, white supremacy, and a massive religious community? To answer that question, I'm going to have to start with just a quick synopsis of my life. I was born and raised into the Mormon church, and I had a deeply devout, very heavily indoctrinated family. Most of my life was spent really just in this little protective bubble where I wasn't allowed to date outside of the Mormon church. I wasn't supposed to hang out with friends outside of the Mormon church. All of my information was very much controlled by my community, and that kept me just very carefully protected. I then met my now ex-husband at age 19, was married at age 20, and would spend 24 years until age 44, again, very much living in an echo chamber. That echo chamber was rich-ass country club gated communities in Mesa, Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona, surrounded by a really Mormon dense population and a very religious population outside of just Mormonism. I came from a huge family, and honestly, I only had like 1 or 2 friends as an adult that weren't members of the Mormon church. I feel like unless you've been Mormon, it's really difficult to understand how that a high demand religion like that really flavors every aspect of your life. Everything was filtered through my religion. I have some friends who are...
That's how it happens with Jehovah's Witnesses, right? Everything is filtered through your religion. That's high control groups generally, though.
Orthodox Jews. I've had friends who are Jehovah's Witness and Scientologists.
Hey, check that out.
And Amish and former Mennonites, who they are the only ones who even come close to what my growing up and the first 44 years of my life was like. And I just want to contrast that to other religions where it's just like, go on Sunday, read your Bible, and you know that Jesus saved you. My partner, Kevin, spent most of his life going to a Lutheran church, very heavily involved in Lutheranism. And it's not that he left the Lutheran church, but he's transitioned into attending a non-denominational church.
That's interesting. Lutherans are kind of extreme. They're like Catholics in how kind of out of their heads they are in a lot of ways. That's kind of the national religion of the Nazi party, pretty much.
That didn't change his life at all. Going from a Lutheran church to a non-denominational church, nothing changed. Whereas for me, every aspect of my life, from what I did 7 days a week, the music that I listened to, the food that I ate, dietary restrictions imposed by the Mormon church, 10% of our gross income going to the Mormon church, and constant service requirements within our congregations because there's no paid clergy, the number of children that I had, who I married, the thoughts in my head, who I voted for, The underwear that I wore, literally the
Oh yeah, the sacred underwear or whatever, right? The magic underwear. Yeah. Okay.
fabric 24/7 pressing up against my lady parts was dictated by my church. I've been out of the church now for 7 years. I left Mormonism in October of 2018. And it's interesting looking back on my old Mormon self, and especially this week going through my Facebook page to pull some of Gage's MAGA posts that I put up. It's interesting how much I was trying to be a good person and love others and follow Jesus and Heavenly Father. And yet,
Dude, I love that she automatically calls him Heavenly Father still. Jehovah's Witnesses call him Jehovah God, and it's so painful, dude. I can't stand it.
Monster I was inside. I hated everybody. I judged everybody. I was racist as hell. I didn't want my kids to hang out with non-members because they were evil. And I didn't know at the time how much my religion was making me hate people. But one day that would come to the forefront. And this really is the beginning step of my journey out of MAGA and everything else. This is where it all kind of collapsed. And it started off as just a really random day for me. One day at age 44,
You're how old? You look like you're 25, right? She's at least 44.
woke up with my husband, Jake, and 2 of our kids, age 8 and 14. And it was Sunday morning. We were just getting ready for church. Now, I was going through some really difficult things after 24 years of domestic violence and then discovering that my Mormon Reformed missionary had a double that I don't want to really dive into on this video.
Had a double life. Oh my God, he's a bad person.
I do tons of other videos on what that looked like and how that impacted me. But I was at a place in my life where church to me was supposed to be this oasis of peace and love. And the people within my religious community were supposed to be that rock for me. I needed them to be my safe harbor. And on this particular Sunday, it was just 6 weeks after I had reconciled with Jake after 3 years of on and off separation as we dealt with his stuff. And that first 6 weeks with him was very precarious. We hadn't lived together for 3 years. And I was really needing more peace, love, happiness, and stability at that time in my life than I had before. So I remember like doing my makeup in the bathroom and curling my hair and getting the kids breakfast and everything that morning. We were hustling to get off to church that day and really just having this expectation of once I get to church, I'm going to have some inspiration. I'm going to be around all these beautiful people and it's going to be that safe harbor in the storm. And instead, church that day was so hateful. Mormon churches.
Hateful. That's interesting. The church was hateful. I heard this this video from this woman the other day. Let me see if I have it. This woman here, why are there black bars on top and on bottom and then again on top for a second time? This is a problem. Anyway, this woman, seriously, look, black bars on the side and on the top and then on the side again. Why would people do that? That is so stupid. This woman is 96 years old and she basically called into C-SPAN or something, I'm not sure what, said that she's voted Republican for 80 years of her life. She's never missed an election. 80 years. She said that Trump has destroyed everything and she will never vote Republican again. She said, maybe I won't be here for the next election. I don't know, but I'm never voting Republican again. That's for sure. Because they keep talking about politics in church and she's sick of it. She went up to her pastor and she said, why are you still talking about Trump and stuff when we should be talking about Jesus? That's interesting, right? Stepped away for a second. The girl we're talking about here, she's ex-Mormon and ex-MAGA. I'm downloading that video. I'm going to jump forward and see what she says here.
They just ran him out of the state for it. I can't believe that this country is letting things happen that's happening. I'm sorry, and I'm sorry to have bothered you, ma'am. You're a sweet lady.
Betty, when is your birthday? You're 96. When you
Hold on.
This country's just going in the wrong direction, and it just saddens my heart. I don't hardly go to church anymore because even our churches have become political. I told the pastor, I said, I come here to study the Bible, to learn about God, our Lord, and you're up there talking about politics. This is just getting to be ridiculous. Thank you, ma'am.
We need more people like Betty. Is that her name, Betty? We need more people like her out there. She's really tired of the politics in church. This is what happens, okay? This is what happens in a fascist takeover. This is exactly what happened in Germany as well. This is how it works. Okay, this is part of the deal. You don't want this kind of thing, then fight fascism. Fight Christian nationalism. Fight in favor of people's rights to, or fight in favor of church-state separation. That's how you prevent this.
Hateful, but the last hour was where I snapped. For the last hour of church, the men and women separate. Men go to their priesthood class, women go to their Relief Society class, and then the children are off in their youth groups and their children's ministry. So I went to the Relief Society meeting, and just having this feeling of I'm going to be surrounded in all this happiness, and I hope that we have a really inspiring lesson so that I can leave here and for the next week just have, you know, that fuel to get me through.
Oh my God, dude. You know what I used to do when I was little? I used to say, I feel so... did you see that? Did you see what just happened? I just landed right between two Goombas. That was messed up. Anyway, I used to say, I feel so refreshed coming out of the meeting. It's so refreshing to listen to this message about God, about Jehovah God, and things like that. Like
God, Jehovah,
Yeah,
God.
you know. So it sounds like that's what she was talking about. Just needed that fuel, you know, that fuel to get through the week or whatever.
It's really interesting to hear stuff like that because
What's that?
I wasn't like that. Like, oh, I feel so refreshed. I needed that
Yeah.
because I wasn't mostly raised. You know, I mean, I was going to meetings growing up, but I wasn't raised in the religion like you were.
Mm-hmm.
And I have literally never come out of a meeting and gone, wow, I really needed that. That was great. I've come out of meetings and been like more exhausted. When I was little,
Yeah.
the meetings were just about seeing my friends who were, you know, who were Jehovah's Witnesses. So I would come out of a meeting and go, I'm so glad I saw my friends, but I've never been like, wow, I needed that like boost of God.
Yeah, I don't think it actually does anything for anybody, really. The boost they get might be from being around their friends and family. But listening to the lessons from Jehovah's Witnesses, at least, I don't know, maybe it's different in other churches. The lessons from Jehovah's Witnesses were the same tired, drab, boring trash that
Yeah.
I had been hearing since I was like literally born. So it didn't really hit me in any way. It was more like a peer pressure thing. Like I should feel refreshed by this. So I'm going to say that I do. That kind
Yeah.
of thing, you know,
I've never had that kind of like,
feeling.
yeah, I've never
Yeah.
felt like I needed to say it was great or
Yeah.
it was great or now I'm more awake. I also just like don't really care. So if I'm tired after a meeting and I'm with grandma, she's gonna know I'm tired. She's gonna
Right.
know I'm hungry. She's gonna know I'm annoyed.
Okay, look, this is a hidden block level. I just about guarantee it. I have to jump for joy until I find a hidden block. I'm skipping.
What's going to be a difficult week, week 7, a reconciliation with a man who had harmed me for many years. And a
I
very,
assume she's talking about her ex because she said she's dealing with a domestic violence situation, I think.
very problematic situation. So that was my expectation sitting in class. And then the teacher introduces the lesson.
Class, teacher, lesson. You hear her and how she's framing this. That's so fascinating.
That's how I framed my church stuff.
Really
Yeah,
interesting. Jehovah's Witnesses do not frame it like that.
yeah, we had
Huh.
at my church we had class with Mr. Wheeler, and then we'd have art class with my grandma, and then we'd have like I don't know, the youth group. The
Mhm.
youth group had class upstairs with the pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always framed it like that.
That's interesting. Okay. Also, Sengear says, good job with my video on the German Christians. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. The Deutsche Christen, I did a video about like the history of the German church and all of that the other day. Anyway.
And the lesson is on the evils of homosexuality. And
Oh boy. Please tell me she came out as gay. I would love it. I love a good story where somebody like turns their life flipped upside down, as my friend Will Smith would say. Point is, I love to hear a story where everything's completely undone, like from the ground up. Were you gay?
That first little 10 minutes of her lesson, she was talking about her sister-in-law who is bisexual and all the reasons why this
The gall.
sister-in-law was basically going to hell and what an evil person she was, and just personally attacking this total stranger that none of us knew. And all I felt was, this is so hateful. Like, I have so much stuff already going on in my life. I'm dealing with really dark things, and there's enough hate out there in the world. This was supposed to be my refuge, and the lesson itself, the doctrine of the church, and these people sitting here in this class are not that at all. It's almost like I saw them for the first time. And yes, ironically, I had always believed that homosexuality was a sin. And I don't know in that moment that I necessarily grappled with that topic and thought, maybe it's not such a sin. All I saw was a group of humans heaping hate on, I think that the girl in the story, the sister-in-law, was like a 22-year-old who again was a total stranger that none of us knew. And just sitting back on,
I really appreciate when people like it's empathy, but I appreciate when people can comprehend that.
Yeah.
Like, you're hating on an actual living person. This person has a crush on someone, and that is why you hate them. You're saying that they're gonna burn for all of eternity. I appreciate when they don't even have to necessarily be like, wow, you guys are all wrong and terrible for saying homosexuality is a sin. If they can just perceive the concept that hating an actual living human being is wrong, that's all I need to hear.
Right.
almost like having this out-of-body experience of that group think and that othering and discrimination against somebody as we dehumanized a total stranger just hit me like a ton of bricks. And I stood up and I told them, I said, I'm leaving. I'm not getting a drink. I'm not going to the bathroom. I'm leaving the Mormon church, and I have never been.
Wow, that is an intense, change there. It's very intense and sudden. That is nuts.
That's all it takes. Just a little ounce of empathy is literally all it takes to, get someone
realize that these people are just absolutely awful and disgusting. Oh, well, she's come to visit. Hello, Miki.
Cat Kim.
Such a good kitty.
Cat
All
Kim.
right. I'll flip the camera down for a couple of minutes. You guys can watch the cat sit here and get pets.
You guys are welcome.
Little
Be
further.
grateful.
There you go. Oh, such a good kitty, yes. All right, let's continue.
Back 44 years of Mormonism.
See, this is the problem. There's no good. 44 years of Mormonism is nuts, dude. To come out at that moment. And how old did you expect this girl to be? How old do you think she was?
She has that MAGA look about her, and whenever someone in MAGA looks like this, I assume they're younger than they are, so I'd guess 30s.
You guessed 30s?
Yeah, because the MAGA look ages you, and she has the MAGA platinum blonde, the makeup style.
I think she's 50 years old.
I'd say she looks older, but my guess was
My
late
guess
30s.
is 25. She didn't look a day over 25 to me.
My guess was early 30s.
That's wild.
Early or mid 30s.
So I grabbed my purse and I left. I did turn to this little 23-year-old teacher and I told her, generations of my family will not be Mormon, like my kids and my grandkids and my great-grandkids, because of this lesson this day.
Wow, you burned that to the ground. I love it.
And I just want you to know that. And then I walked out the door of that classroom, and there was a little drinking fountain against the wall in the corner right outside the room. And I stood there and I texted Jake and I said, I need you to meet me by the drinking fountain, by the Relief Society room. We need to talk. So a few minutes later, Jake comes out, and this was the conversation that I had
Please tell me they're still married.
with him. I said, if you were going to the Mormon church today for the first time, if you're church shopping, this is your first date with a religion.
Church shopping. God, it's so painful how they frame things.
Would you want a second date? Would you want to come back to this church? And he was like, no, absolutely not. Our lesson is hateful.
Wow, that's crazy. You're telling me that her husband was already on his way out as well? That's actually really interesting. Well, congratulations to both of them to get out. That's really cool.
I really appreciate people having empathy.
Yes. Oh my
and that's
God.
that sounds like the bare minimum, but in churches like this, it's really, really not. Most people do not have that bare minimum empathy.
Right. That's true. Unfortunately, empathy is a sin in a lot of people's eyes now, right? On the right. And you know who popularized that? Empathy as a sin, quote unquote. That's what they call it, the sin of empathy. Have you heard that?
I haven't, but I do
You
know
haven't
that
heard
they
that?
don't.
Oh.
I haven't heard that exact phrase.
Yeah, the sin of empathy is what they call it. It's they claim that basically that Jesus would not want us to have empathy because people should be pulling themselves up by their bootstraps and stuff.
So chat's saying she's not married to the Mormon guy anymore, the one in the
No?
story.
Oh, okay.
He was pretty abusive apparently, but she has a new husband and she's super, super happy.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
I'm glad that she's happy and doing well.
Yeah, for sure.
The whole 3 hours has been horrible. No, if you put it like that, no, I wouldn't. And I said, me either. We'll talk about it in the car and let's go get the kids. We're leaving. And I'm leaving the church. And
that's crazy. I've heard stories of married couples leaving. I was not married to a Jehovah's Witness, so I left like independently. But my brother, oh my God, my brother and his ex, they went through this. My brother basically stopped believing in any of this, and his ex still believed and wanted to continue to go desperately. And like, he even took the step of like preventing her from going to the meeting, like taking the keys and refusing to allow her to go, which I think is wrong. Eventually, she found her way out as well. She realized that this is nonsense and damaging and everything else. And I talk to her every now and then now, but yeah, what were you saying?
I was just gonna say, I think like she had free will. He left. He shouldn't have like taken her keys or
Definitely
anything.
not.
She could have just. I don't actually know which family members we're talking about.
Talking about my brother, who I call Lance, and
Oh, okay, yeah.
his, yeah.
Jake was just like, wait, what? So we go get in the car, and I spent the whole week just really grappling with, do I want to be part of this community that's so hateful? And because of that moment,
like, she was in Mormonism for 44 years. You're telling me that this is what the first time that you heard this lesson? I don't know. That's kind of weird to me.
Then was looking back at all of these other moments in my life, and both the doctrine of the church,
there you go.
teachings of the clergy, the bishops and the prophets and Sunday school teachers and things like that. And then just
it wasn't the lesson that made her upset. It wasn't the idea of people saying, oh, homosexuality is a sin and blah, blah, blah that made her upset. It was the fact that this woman was talking about her sister-in-law in such an evil way.
Okay, I guess that checks out.
Because her sister-in-law was also very young, so she was like, this is an actual person that I can put a name and face to.
Right.
The clergy, the bishops and the prophets and Sunday school teachers and things like that. And then just my interactions with the community and everything just started to hit me. All of this hate, like our investing money in fighting Prop 8 so that gay people couldn't get married and have a life partner. The hatred that I had towards, as a white supremacist and this is church doctrine that black skin was a curse from God. My fear and hatred of anyone who had brown skin, whether they were from India, whether they were African American, whether they were Mexican.
Right. Church doctrine, they believe that they were cursed directly by God, and the black skin is evidence of that curse. There's no way getting around that. I think they retracted that in the 90s maybe, or the 70s or something. I don't remember, but it's there, you know, it was there. It's pretty clear. And it's hard to look past that today, in my mind. Anyway, all right, let's continue. Mickey, I'm so sorry. You're such a good kitty. Such a good kitty. But you have to get down. She has to get down.
It's because you hate her.
No,
he hates her and he wants her to die. Look at this. He's so evil.
Good.
You are so evil.
She loves
Cashmere's
pets.
coming in. Cashmere's coming in to join the fun.
He's certainly going to try to jump up here as well. Such a good kitty, but you have to go. And she has to know that this is a harbinger, a bad harbinger, getting all these pets all at once.
When you put Miki down, Cashmere's going to jump up, and then you're going to put Cashmere down and Miki's going to jump up. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, he's going to have to get down too.
Yeah, it's going to be a loop. You're just picking one cat.
Right.
It's almost like that week, I could just see all of these dots kind of connecting. And I started to get this big picture of what my life was inside of this organization. And I knew that I just couldn't do it anymore. Leaving the Mormon religion took me exactly 2 weeks from that moment.
That's crazy.
That week, I just started to look at things from a distance. The next Sunday, we went to a Christian church, and my ex-husband is still.
What, Mormons aren't Christian? Okay, I'll take it. I mean, I'm being charitable. Let's just see what she has to say here.
Part of this Christian church. It was very loving. It's an incredible church. They are very LGBTQ supporting. They have support groups for women who've had abortions. They are kind, amazing people.
Interesting. Okay.
And that first Sunday that we went to a non-Mormon church, and the pastor was just truly talking about love and support and working communally as humans, it was mind-boggling. And Jake and I both knew in that moment, standing in that church, that we could never go back to the Mormon church again. And then the next week, I would start digging into Mormon history, and I would start looking at polygamy, which I never knew.
Uh-oh. How are you Mormon and you don't know about polygamy? I guess
Okay,
they do
maybe
try
you
to
cut her
hide
off.
it, probably, right?
Maybe you cut her off as well. You like
suppose
paused her
so.
in the middle of a sentence.
That's like my favorite thing, pausing people in the middle of sentences.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for you to say a sentence so I could interrupt it. Okay,
Oh, I
fine.
have no more sentences. Sorry.
Okay.
Polygamy within the Mormon church. And I started looking at the truth claims of the Book of Mormon itself and modern revelations that hadn't been fulfilled. And 2 weeks after that walkout, I would resign from the Mormon church, putting a stop with my children to 7 generations that my children are descended from the very foundations of Mormonism on that side of the family, 5 generations on my side, and the buck stopped with me. 2 weeks later, my marriage would end and my whole entire life would collapse. And I would be left with absolutely nothing. And that shift is a lot of what opened me up to stepping away from the Trump train, the MAGA movement, and ultra-conservative, because my life before was very privileged. I was living in $1 million homes. We were vacationing all over the country. I had everything I
Look at you.
wanted. I could drop a $100 bill. I wouldn't even take the time to bend over and pick it up. We had so much for so long. And suddenly my life collapsing made me see the other side. I would be sleeping in my car, and then I would no longer have that car. I would no longer have anything. I had absolutely
Wait.
nothing.
Yeah.
I lost everything in my divorce.
Oh, it was in her divorce. Okay, interesting. Wow, that's rough. That's really rough. How would you lose everything in your divorce? Like, that's what alimony is for. I don't know. I don't know how her situation played out, but alimony is specifically to prevent you losing everything in a divorce like that.
And for the first time, I was sitting in the DES office applying for food stamps.
Been there.
And I was picking up food boxes from a Catholic charity so that I could feed my kids. And it's crazy the stuff that people donate to like food pantries. It was like canned beans and canned green beans and macaroni and cheese and soup. And we were so happy to just have that soup. Like that's all we had. And I honestly don't know if I would be the person that I am today if my ex-husband hadn't paid alimony, if he hadn't forced me into homelessness, if I hadn't had 3 years of absolute struggle. I don't know that it would have been enough to wake me up. And
That's interesting. Yeah, if he had paid alimony, how did he not pay alimony? That kind of blows me away, honestly. It's specifically intended to prevent that kind of thing. I don't think I really believe in alimony, though. I don't know. I'm leaning no. I don't think alimony is good, but I'm
What is
willing to be
alimony?
convinced otherwise. What?
What is alimony?
When
Oh.
you get divorced, alimony is like if you get divorced from somebody that has a lot of money, alimony is where that person pays you. They give you money to maintain your standard of living that you had when you were married to them. And that's it. Like, say in a divorce, you split assets, but say you get $500,000 from the assets that your partner has, and they get $500,000, but you're destitute, you don't have a job, and you never learned any trades or went to college, anything, but your spouse, you supported the households by taking care of the children and stuff while your spouse went to college to earn money, and they got to a point where they're making $500,000 a year. You are legally entitled to some of that every month since you supported them through the process of blah, blah, blah.
Someone's questioning why she was excited about soup because she had literally no food at all. She's
Yeah.
excited that she could eat something, that her children could eat something.
Yeah.
There, like, I assume
It's
there were
hard.
days where she was eating literally nothing. So
Yeah.
even
Probably.
that small thing of soup was
A
like
lot.
amazing to
Yeah.
her.
Anyway, that's what alimony is. I'm not sure I fully believe in alimony, though. I mean, I'm willing to be convinced, but I think alimony is oftentimes like just taken advantage of by people. You remember Amy?
Yeah.
She tried to get alimony from Chris.
I don't remember a time when they were together, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Well, she's a scumbag. She served absolutely no value whatsoever in the world. She was just an awful person.
I remember when she lived with us.
And she had a degree which would probably preclude her from alimony. If you have a degree, then you're likely capable of taking care of yourself, and it's not like that situation I described where you took care of the home while the other person like learned a trade or whatever and got money from that. But Amy did get child support even though the kids lived with him. They lived at his house. That explain that. Why was she getting child support for them living at his house? I don't know. Sometimes I'm really unhappy with the way the court system functions.
Hayden really hated going to her house.
Oh yeah, I know.
And like, so when Dad says they didn't live with her, they were still supposed to go see her, but her kids literally refused to.
They hated her, and I believe that he's still paying child support for her today.
Yeah.
That's just really, really disgusting and wrong, seems to me.
They're Navajo and Japanese and Black, and of course they live in Arizona, so lots of Mexicans and atheist, Buddhist, Jewish, like everything. My friend group became this beautiful melting pot. My friend group became this beautiful melting pot for the first time in my life because I wasn't just friends with the people in my ward. I actually know all of my neighbors.
In my ward, yeah, special Mormon ward.
Now, I did go from Mormonism straight into throwing myself into Jesus, and I would spend 4.5 years deeply immersed in Christianity, sometimes going to like multiple Bible study groups a week, because I felt like the Mormon church had like kept me from knowing Jesus. So it's like, oh, I can finally have a relationship with Jesus without like the Book of Mormon in the way. So that's kind of where I was until 2 years ago. And coincidentally, my leaving MAGA happened at the same time that I left Christianity and broke up with Jesus. And I don't think that...
God, don't you love the way she frames everything? Broke up with Jesus.
She also said broke up with Trump.
Did she?
Yeah, earlier.
I missed that. That's funny.
DJT, she said.
Okay.
That could have happened in any other way either. So I started to have all of these diverse friends and read diverse thoughts, and my brain was being flooded with stuff that it had never even considered before. And then I started grappling with everything that I had been taught in my church about race, that a white God made a white Adam and Eve and put them in the Garden of Eden, and then Cain and Abel. And
yeah, why white, by the way? I mean, do you think people from the Middle East were white? Which is where the Garden of Eden supposedly was?
So he cursed Cain with brown skin. I still believed that up until like 3 or 4 years ago. And then I made a couple of Black friends. There are a lot of Black people in the Mormon church. I'd never had a Black friend. And they're amazing. Like, they're some of my favorite people in the world. And because I connected with them on such a deep personal level, I started to question race theory. And it's like, well, now that I'm learning actual science and data, what do we know about race? And what were the origins of brown skin, dark hair, brown eyes? So I started reading genetics studies, and lo and behold, I discovered that humans were brown forever, and that the blonde hair, blue eye, white skin thing is really new, like 6,000 years old. And it's not because anybody was cursed or not cursed or better than somebody else. It's because humans migrated to northern climates. I'm descended from people who inhabited Scandinavia and Germany, and it was cold as hell up there. So that's why we're blonde. I remember the moment literally laying in my bed and going through all of these studies on genetics and the blonde blue gene mutation and how new it was. And I felt like the whole entire world just fell out from under me. And in that moment, I could no longer be a white supremacist. it just went away. Like I read.
That's fascinating. I really appreciate that. Yeah, a lot of white supremacy. Here's the thing about like black people or whatever. There is a disparity in the black community between white people and black people and how much crime is committed, right? This is a common talking point among white supremacists. There's a disparity. Why is that disparity there? Can be one of two things. It's either because they have been subjected to social circumstances which led to this disparity. Like there's some kind of a social problem, in which case it can be fixed. You know, generational wealth is not as common among the black community because they were subjected to Jim Crow laws or whatever. Or it's either that or they are just like genetically racially inferior. It's one of those two things. There is no middle ground. Either it's social or it's genetic. It is a true dichotomy, social or genetic. If you believe it's social, we can fix it through reparations, through all kinds of different things, all kinds of different programs to try to raise the black community up. If you believe it's genetic, then you're just a Nazi. And most Nazis don't want to be identified as such. They don't want to be called Nazis because it's a little too on the nose for them. But it sounds like she started to realize that her beliefs were Nazi beliefs. She's describing how she stopped accepting white supremacy when she realized that we are racially equal. I think that's fascinating.
And reread little details like how the kinky curly hair, like the afro, protects the scalp from intense sun. Well, that makes sense if people are in Africa, or the Fertile Crescent. By the way, the Mormon Church taught me that Adam and Eve, the Garden of Eden, was in Jackson County, Missouri. So it made sense to me that Adam and Eve would be white because Missouri.
Did you hear how she said it? How she said white?
Adam and Eve would be white.
White?
White?
Yeah, like that Family Guy episode where it says
Stewie.
Cool Whip. That's it.
Yeah,
Cool
Cool
Whip.
Whip.
Yeah.
Because Missouri. This little era of deconstructing my racism, I suddenly was doing tons of TikTok videos on deconstructing racism. And like, I remember one day just going to the farmer's market here in my hometown in Arizona and looking at Mexican families with their little kids in strollers and African Americans. And we have a lot of refugees here in my hometown. I have no idea where they're from actually, but people who were nothing like me, and thinking how marvelous genetics are, that dark skin protects people from intense UV exposure and from picking up too much vitamin D.
Yeah, if you're going to be honest, as a white supremacist, you believe that it's racial. You believe it's racial. Just be honest. You don't have to lie. You don't have to twist things around or pretend otherwise. We all know what you believe. Just be honest about it.
Skin tones and hair textures and eye colors are all developed to uniquely suit whatever environment that group of people is going to be in. So if you have darker skin, you are uniquely suited for a warmer climate, and that is really awesome.
Right.
If you have lighter skin, you're uniquely suited for a colder and like snowy climate, which is awesome.
Right.
You literally cannot say anyone is better than anyone.
Well,
unless you're racist.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, racists believe that they're just genetically superior, and that's all there is to it. They just believe in genetic superiority.
And seeing the world in a totally different way and feeling completely different on the inside. That day, going to that farmer's market for the first time in my entire life, because I had been indoctrinated as a white supremacist, I almost felt this barrier between myself and other people just evaporate. And it is important to point out that I was doing so much work myself. So as I'd have these aha moments and learn something, then I would go to my therapist and like, let's talk about racism. And I'd get books on breaking down racism and helping to understand and really kind of checking myself and then asking my friends to
checking yourself before you wreck yourself.
Talking to my Black friends about just how to be an okay human. And also during all of this, I was learning to let go of judgment and empathize with other people in a way that I really never had before.
Dude, I suck. This is such an easy level and I cannot get through it.
So if I was watching a movie about Harriet Tubman, then rather than looking at that as them and their experience and their history, I was learning to connect with the stories of humans. And I don't know how to explain this, but like, what if I was Harriet Tubman? What if I was...
You're not looking at them as they anymore. You're looking at them as us.
As people.
Yeah.
Someone said, what
Dude,
about
I
people with
suck.
orange skin? What are they suited for? Not being president. I shouldn't have said that.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Certainly not suited. Well, they're well suited to be dictators. How about that? They're good. They're good for that.
But yeah, she started viewing humans as a group of species rather than as separate whatever.
Right. It's interesting.
As any of these people in this story who were going through this, rather than that was them, that wasn't me. As I was learning and deconstructing and picking up every little bit of my worldview and my behaviors that had been just forced on me in my deeply indoctrinated childhood, I began to also deconstruct the Bible, and I was having more and more problems with the new Christian religious community that I was part of and their hatred towards gay people and just so many people. And I began to really look at the Bible differently. I feel like the Old Testament is the worst thing in the world, and I never wanted it in my home, so I actually deleted it off of my phone. And I just didn't like
the New Testament. Wow, interesting.
Like the New Testament either. I didn't like any of it, and I don't believe
the Old Testament.
That any of it is true. I don't believe that it's valid. I see no evidence for God. And as I deconstructed, I would eventually deconstruct everything. And 2 years ago, leave the Christian church.
Okay, wow, that's a pretty big deal.
The next big thing to collapse was gender roles. I was still very much living in this traditional family structure with my new partner. I got rid of Jake and we divorced. I met Kev and I was doing all of the cooking and the cleaning, and he was the provider, and that worked out great, except that I still felt very small. And then I started to read books on the science of the genetics of male and female, and do males have genes that make them more protective, and do females have instincts that make them better cooks? And
it's interesting. I think that our understanding of how much genetics affect things is way overblown. I think that genetics affect things like to a way smaller degree. I do think that there are, well, let me rephrase. There are factually some differences between males and females in the way that goes beyond socializing, but our differences are really smaller than people think.
Evaluated everything. This one big thing leapt out at me, that we live in a patriarchal system that has taught us a bunch of lies. And I looked at my own life and my aptitude and the things that I had the potential to do, and how that I really wasn't cut out to be a mommy at all. The whole trad wife thing was completely contrary to my nature.
Hey, that's okay, right? You don't have to be a mom if you don't want to, but I guess Mormonism tells you do.
And it wasn't serving me in my home anymore. And I literally just started binge reading every feminist book that I could get a hold of. And I remember one afternoon walking into a little local bookstore here after having lunch with Kev and hitting this feminist section about just like girls are humans too, like really basic stuff, and getting goosebumps and literally crying and thinking, I hate feminists. Like, they're so gross. Like, women's lib is destroying our country.
Women's lib, that's old school. Are you familiar? This dates her. She said she said she was in the Mormon church for 44 years. I'm sorry, I'm having such a hard time picturing her as like a 50, maybe 60-year-old person. She's 50 or 60. Anyway, women's lib is from the 70s.
Which is 50 years ago.
Even earlier than that. It's from the like the 50s and the 60s. I think is when it started and got really popular in the 70s. I think in like 65, they started making a really big splash. But anyway, Jehovah's Witnesses have talked about women's lib. The governing body members have, I mean. And it's fascinating that that's the feminist group that she thinks about when she thinks feminism. Tells us something.
Someone said she's now a MAGA and far-right horror story. See what reading and learning does to you, liberal indoctrination.
Seriously, yeah.
It felt so good to just sit down at a little table in this bookstore and examine some of these books and then buy a couple, take them home with me. And
reading, madam, that is not okay. That is how you gain knowledge, and we're not okay with that.
realize, oh shit. And then all the therapy around that, and then coming home and changing what I'm doing in my house. Like, I'm sorry, honey, but I'm not going to cook all the food anymore. And I'm not going to do all the grocery shopping. It's not my job to do this or that. And
Oh boy.
here's what I actually want to be doing with no education, with no work experience ever. My last job had been when I was like a 19-year-old girl.
That is what alimony is for. Situations like this, where you supported the husband through his work experience and or education, and you never worked in a day in your life. Now it's the husband's responsibility to support you at your standard of living you had when you were together. And again, I don't know that I really believe in alimony. I would have to think about it, but yeah.
But I want to build a life for myself, and here's how I'm going to do it. And it doesn't matter if I'm a girl or not. Pink and blue is fake. And right as I'm stepping into feminism and atheism, we have a presidential election. And I never thought I had to think about my politics. Like, clearly, Donald Trump is the only guy to lead the country. And I
Clearly
follow him on Instagram, and I follow him everywhere. And I'm part of the MAGA movement. I have a t-shirt.
It was really funny to hear, and I follow him on Instagram about a president. That's such a new concept. Like,
it is. Yeah, it is.
Following the president on Instagram, guys.
It is a new concept. It's wild.
Makes it sound like they're friends.
Yeah.
Like, of course, this is the only way to go. The Republicans are the only sane people in the country, and the Democrats are nuts. Like, Joe Biden is ridiculous. Kamala Harris is the devil herself. And then
it's wild to me how they've convinced people of this. They are like normal human beings, as normal as you get. Like, there's no insanity about either of these two people. And somehow they've completely convinced themselves otherwise, that they're out of their heads, drunk on the idea that Joe Biden is like this evil monster. And it's like, where did this come from? I don't understand. How did we get here? It's wild.
Pretty feminist of her to say the devil is a woman, because, you'd assume that
Did
God
she?
would be a woman too. Yeah, she said Kamala Harris is the devil herself.
Right. Yeah. God, dude, like, I'm coming to realize now that there is a bigger divide in the United States than I thought there was. And I honestly don't know how it comes back together. I don't know.
Not sure it can. At least not.
I'll tell you how it comes back together. Here's my assessment of how that's going to happen. I think the only way that we're going to be able to make things come back together is when Donald Trump dies at a ripe old age of 98, in 20 years or whatever, and he dies in his sleep peacefully and with all his family around that he hangs out with so much and loves so very much.
And cares about deeply.
Deeply, yes, so deeply. Anyway, when he's gone, I think that's when things can turn around. But I believe that we're going to have hard crackdowns on Fox News and stuff. Like in the 40s, the 30s and the 40s in Germany, they brainwashed people by force. They imposed it on them and broke their human rights by forcing people who disagreed with them not to speak and stuff, right? There was no way to reverse that other than to force it out the same way that it was forced in. By banning the swastika, by banning people from preaching about politics from the pulpit and stuff like that. There's no way to do it unless you're forcing it out. And I think that's what we're going to have to do when Democrats take control again. Force this out. There was a way to do this without force, and that was through shame. We could have shamed people, but the shaming thing isn't going to work. And it's, I don't think we have another option but force, unfortunately. I don't like that, but there's no other way. We're going to have to ban, certain like MAGA hats. We're going to have to make people ashamed to be involved with it, and we're going to have to send them to prison if they were involved in propagandizing. Julius Streicher was a propagandist for the Nazi Party, and he was executed at Nuremberg. Now, I don't want executions. I don't believe in the death penalty under any circumstances, but you know, there will have to be punishments against the right for what they've done, against Fox News for what they've done, for the propagandists. There will have to be punishment. That's how we fix this. I've seen tons of examples of them, or I've seen tons of examples of societies in this situation and how they turned it around, and it was not pretty. But guess what? We're not having a good time right now, are we? There's nothing pretty about this. When Democrats take control again, they're going to have to charge people with a lot of crimes and do things like ban people from talking about politics in the church and stuff.
And Roe v. Wade gets overturned. And that shook. And honestly, in some of Trump's
Oh, that was recent. So she must have just gotten out. So she must be like 48 then, probably, right?
pre-campaign stuff, just watching some of the crowd that followed him, it was almost like I was back there in my Mormon church that Sunday having this out-of-body experience. And I started to ask that same question. If this was the first time that I was trying out a political group and a political party and a political candidate, if this was like our first date, would I want to...
Dude, I'm sorry. It's just too weird for me that you keep calling it a date.
Second date? If I hadn't been MAGA since the beginning of MAGA, if I hadn't voted for Trump all those years and followed Trump and like really worshiped Trump, I was on the Trump train 100%, believed that God was behind him. If I hadn't done all that, would I? And the answer was absolutely no. As he talked about immigrants in New Jersey eating cats and dogs.
Ugh.
I thought that was in Ohio for some reason.
I think it was in Ohio.
Okay. Wait, it's muted. Why is
And
it?
now I had black
Oh,
friends.
it wasn't muted, apparently.
And now I had black friends. And he makes a statement about black jobs. And I might have just fallen for that before, but my black friends were college professors, highly educated artists, business owners. So like they had better jobs than me. I was on food stamps at the time. And then honestly, I think the thing that broke me the most was that over on my TikTok, where I had 400,000 followers, I was talking
Wow, look at you on TikTok. Crazy.
about women's rights. I was talking about feminism. I was talking about equality in marriage and just not being a racist jerk. And I was getting so much hate from conservatives. The comments were just insane. And I saw the ugliness, the hate, and the fear up close and personal. And I wasn't part of the in crowd anymore. I was on the receiving end of the hate and the fear. And I couldn't ignore it. So one night I laid in bed reading about political platforms and what is a Democrat and what is a Republican and what does MAGA stand for and what does Trump stand for and what did Joe Biden do, and tell me about Barack Obama, who I had secretly voted for. And honestly,
Oh.
Did you hear that? OMG?
Who she secretly voted? Interesting.
Yeah.
She went through that quick too. She was
Shame
like,
on you. Jeez.
felt like it was a coming out of the closet type of moment, lying there in bed realizing, oh shit, I'm a Democrat. And I didn't even know it. Not only am I a Democrat, but I am like this woke, feminist, atheist, anti-theist, fighting against religion. So of course, you know what the next step is going to be. Therapy, therapy, therapy. Reaching out to my new community and asking for feedback. Like, what do you guys think about this? And what do you think about the fact that I think this? And then books, books, books. Study, study, study. And part of that studying has been being part of a political campaign. I kind of landed in the RFK camp for a little bit. And so I was volunteering with a local little campaign group here in my home.
with the Obama thing, I want you guys to keep in mind when that happened, she was still a Mormon. When people were voting for Obama, she was still a Mormon. She voted for...
She was, wasn't she? I think so, yeah.
She voted for a black man who was a Democrat while she was still a Mormon secretly.
Wow. Okay.
That is crazy.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get.
It's been really interesting too, not having like that church bubble where other people are giving me the information. I have access to information, and I've been really taking advantage of that. So I've been going to local town halls, getting to know our local mayor, like literally following her on social media, reading articles about her, reading her whole history of who she is and everything, and some of the controversies surrounding her, and getting to know all of the candidates in this election that we had yesterday. I guess for the first time in my life, accessing all of the full political rights that I always had access to and never really took advantage of, because it really hit me what a unique experience it is to live in the United States of America in the year 2015. You guys, I said that incorrectly on another video. So now we're in 2015 now in every single video. I don't know if I'll ever say 2025 again. Like, this is such a unique experience for us not to be under a monarchy, not to be in some type of a theocracy, like a pharaoh, divine emperor. Like, we have a really unique opportunity as
We are in a dictatorship now. It's at best a flawed democracy, at best. But, you know, I've studied a lot about dictatorships, a lot, okay? I know how dictatorships work, and we are literally following a path right now that I've seen 1,000 times. Somebody is reading a history book at the White House and figuring out exactly how to do this. I'm 100% real. We are in a situation right now that people have faced throughout history, and it's following an exact trajectory. I was working on an outline for a new book last night. It's going to be reasonably short, probably 50 pages, that is in part documenting contemporaneously my experience of living through a dictatorship, and watching things unfold, and like, what are the most interesting questions that historians want to know today, like about Germany? Like, what are they looking for? What kind of answers are they looking for? Because I have those answers now. I understand how these things unfolded. I used to ask myself, like, how did people allow that to happen back then in Germany? I now know. I understand. I just watched it unfold. Okay, this level sucks. Boo. So I'm going to be writing a book about that, a short one, and about the steps you can take to fight against it at each mile marker, if you will. We are living through an identical, we're living through a fascist dictatorship identical to what others have, or how others have unfolded. Russia, Hungary, Turkey, after the coup attempt forever ago, they've all unfolded in this exact identical way. And I know what comes next. So anyway, I don't remember what brought me to that. What was it she said?
Like a pharaoh.
Oh, living in a theocracy, right. We live in a theocracy now, where Christian nationalists control things now. Let me pull up a clip for you guys real fast, just to kind of drive home my point. Do you guys remember the leader of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, saying this?
Number 3, let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions.
This is from July 3rd, 2024, before Trump was elected.
The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
We're in a theocracy. Somebody is sitting at the White House reading a history book and figuring out what to do next. And again, I've seen what happens next. There will be arrests. There will be arrests of journalists. There already are. Of journalists, of, political commentators. I think I'm probably safe personally because I'm a small fry in the grand scheme of things, and I try to be careful about the things that I say. But there will be arrests of lawyers that work for major organizations as well.
Divine emperor. Like, we have a really unique opportunity as citizens to interface with our government and to form and shape it. And I had never done that before. And it's kind of funny, like, I have this little allegory in my head for it. When I was like a teenager growing up, and my doctor would ask me, are you sexually active? And the answer was no, I'm not. And then I got married and I was. I feel like I've been a political virgin. Like, I was never really politically active.
Okay.
So the date allegories aren't, or whatever they're called.
Yeah, metaphors.
Metaphors.
Right, yeah.
The date metaphors, and then this.
And now I am. And politics and our government and the leaders who are guiding us are very much a part of my thoughts on a fairly regular basis. And by the way, After I broke up with MAGA, I did send a letter to the White House
There you go.
after Trump's inauguration and let him know that I was a lifelong conservative, lifelong Republican, longtime Trump supporter, and long-term MAGA. And I listed out the reasons why I'd broken up with him, why I was disillusioned with him as a human being and as a leader. And
You know, Nick Fuentes is unhappy with him, with Trump, because of his corruption. And I can appreciate that. Like, I don't understand why everybody else doesn't see this. Like, he's as corrupt as they come. He's a complete scumbag, really. Do you not see this? This is wild.
I told him goodbye. He never wrote back. It was kind of weird. But you know who did reach out to me? Was Cory Booker's office. I don't want to talk about it right now, but they called. So thank you. And I hope to
Cory Booker. Cory Booker. He's that black dude in Congress, right? I believe that's who it is.
be interviewing Ms. Fox from District 7 here in my hometown in Arizona.
Oh, that's the end of it. Anyway, yeah, tell me what you think about it in the comments. That's really interesting. I'm glad to hear that you got out of MAGA. That's good news. And out of the racist ideology that you were stuck in. It's a challenge to get out of that stuff, right? It's a challenge, but it's admirable and commendable that you get out. So I'm proud of you for doing that, for what that's worth, if you ever see this video. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.